Welcome back, beauties. If you're just joining us, here's what you missed. Kira thought she was just making her ex jealous when she asked a dangerous stranger for a kiss. But that stranger was Jae Hyun, Seoul's most feared crime boss. One kiss turned into a shooting at the club, a desperate escape, and a night in his penthouse where two broken souls found something neither expected: connection. But Jae's past is haunted by everyone he's ever loved dying because of him. So when his associate warned him that being with Kira would get her killed, Jae did what he thought was right. He pushed her away, told her to leave, broke both their hearts to keep her safe. For 5 days, they stayed apart. Jae drowning in regret. Kira trying to forget the man who made her feel alive for the first time in years. But then Marcus showed up. Drunk, angry, violent, ready to make Kira pay for humiliating him at that club. Kira screamed. Marcus lunged. And Jae, the man who'd sworn to stay away, came crashing through her door like he'd never left. This is part 2. He'd come through the still-open door like a storm, grabbing Marcus and slamming him against the wall with a force that rattled the pictures hanging there. Touch her again, Jae growled in English, voice lethal, and you won't live long enough to regret it. Marcus struggled, but Jae's grip was ironclad. Who the hell are you? Someone who actually values her. Jae leaned in close. You had something precious and you threw it away. So now you get nothing. Not her time. Not her tears. Nothing. Understand? Marcus nodded frantically, and Jae released him. He stumbled out of the apartment without another word. Silence fell. Kira stood frozen, chest heaving, mind struggling to catch up. Jae turned to her, eyes searching her face. Are you hurt? She shook her head mutely. Kira, why are you here? Her voice came out broken. You told me to leave. You said, I know what I said. Jae crossed the room, stopping just inches from her. And I was wrong. I was so wrong. Tears spilled down Kira's cheeks. You hurt me. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life making up for it if you'll let me. He cupped her face gently, thumbs wiping away her tears. I've spent 15 years convinced that loving someone was a death sentence. But these past few days without you, that was worse than dying. Because I was alive, but I wasn't living. Jae, you were right. I was a coward. I was so terrified of losing you that I pushed you away first. But I don't want to be that person anymore. His voice cracked. I want to be the man you saw in me. The one who's worthy of your fire. Kira's hands came up to cover his. What if it's too dangerous? What if? Then we'll face it together. I can't promise you safety, Kira. My world is brutal and unforgiving. But I can promise you this. I will fight for you. I will protect you. And I will never, ever push you away again. How do I know you won't change your mind? Jae pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. Because for the first time in my life, I'm choosing love over fear. And I'm choosing you. Kira closed her eyes, fresh tears streaming down her face. I'm still angry with you. I know. And it's going to take time for me to trust you again. I know that too. But she opened her eyes, meeting his gaze. I choose you too. Even though you're reckless and dangerous and completely insane. A smile broke across Jae's face. Genuine. Relieved. Beautiful. So are you, apparently. And then he kissed her. It was softer than the first time, but no less intense. A promise sealed in touch. A future written in the press of lips and the tangle of hands. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathless. What happens now? Kira whispered. Now. Jae tucked a curl behind her ear. Now we figure it out. Together. Together, Kira repeated, the word tasting like hope. And for the first time in 6 days she believed it. 8 months later, the charity gala was in full swing, Seoul's elite mingling beneath crystal chandeliers, champagne flowing like water. Kira adjusted her emerald green gown, still not quite used to these events. But Jae's hand found the small of her back, grounding her. You okay? He murmured. Perfect, she said, smiling up at him. And she meant it. The past 8 months hadn't been easy. Jay's world was everything he'd warned her about. Dangerous, complicated, demanding. There had been close calls, sleepless nights, moments when Kira questioned if she'd made the right choice. But there had also been mornings waking up in his arms. Late-night conversations about everything and nothing. The way he'd surprised her with a ticket to Lagos so she could see her family, and went with her, charming her mother despite the language barrier. He was trying. They both were. And slowly, impossibly, it was working. Mr. Kong, a businessman, approached, bowing slightly. I wanted to discuss the merger. Tomorrow, Jay said smoothly. Tonight, I'm here with my girlfriend. The word still made Kira's heart flutter. Girlfriend. The businessman left, and Jay led her onto the terrace, away from the crowd. The Seoul skyline glittered before them, 1,000 lights against the darkness. Do you remember the first thing you ever said to me? Jay asked. Kira laughed. Will you kiss me? I need him to see. Not exactly romantic.
No.
But it was honest. And brave. He turned to face her, expression serious. You taught me that, how to be brave.
Me?
You're the one who runs a criminal empire. That's not bravery. That's survival. He took her hands in his. But choosing to love you, to let you love me, that was the bravest thing I've ever done. Kira's throat tightened. Jay, I know we've only been together 8 months. I know there's still so much we're figuring out. But I also know that I don't want to spend another day without you in it. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Kira's breath caught. I'm not asking you to marry me, Jay said quickly, a nervous smile playing at his lips. Not yet. I know you need time, and I want to do this right. But I am asking you to build a future with me. To take the next step. He opened the box, revealing a delicate silver ring with a deep burgundy stone, the exact color of the dress she'd worn the night they met. This is a promise, he continued softly. A promise that I'm all in. That no matter what comes, I'm choosing you. Every single day. Tears blurred Kira's vision as she stared at the ring, then at the man holding it. The dangerous, broken, beautiful man who'd somehow become her home. You know I'm still going to challenge you, she said, voice thick with emotion. Still going to call you out when you're being stubborn. I'm counting on it, and I'm going to drag you to Lagos at least twice a year. Already cleared my schedule. And sometimes I'm going to need space. Need to be my own person outside of your world. Jay's smile softened. I wouldn't have it any other way. You're not mine to own, Kira. You're mine to love. There's a difference. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Then yes. Yes to the promise. Yes to the future. Yes to all of it. Jay slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into his arms, kissing her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they finally broke apart, both of them laughing and crying, Kira rested her head against his chest. Who would have thought, she murmured, that one reckless kiss would lead to this? Pressed his lips to her forehead. Best favor anyone's ever asked me for. Even though I had no idea who you were? Especially because you had no idea. You saw me, Kira. Not the reputation. Not the fear. Just me. She pulled back to look at him, her hand coming up to trace the scar bisecting his eyebrow, the one she'd touched that first morning in his penthouse. I still see you, she whispered. All of you. The darkness and the light. And I'm not going anywhere. Neither am I. They stood there on the terrace, wrapped in each other's arms, the city sprawling beneath them like a promise of all the tomorrows they'd face together. Inside, the gala continued. Music drifted out through the open doors, a slow, romantic melody. Dance with me, Jay said suddenly. Here. Why not? You asked me for a kiss in front of 100 people. I think I can handle a dance. Kira laughed, the sound bright and free and full of joy. When you put it that way, he pulled her close, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers against his heart. They swayed gently to the music, lost in their own world. Kira. Thank you. For what? For being reckless enough to approach a stranger. for being brave enough to stay, for teaching me that some risks are worth taking. She looked up at him, eyes shining. Thank you for catching me when I fell. Always, he promised. For as long as you'll let me. And as they danced beneath the stars, Kira thought about that night 8 months ago. How desperate and broken she'd felt. How certain she was that happiness was something that happened to other people. She'd walked into that lounge, looking for revenge. Instead, she'd found redemption. She'd found love. Not the fairy tale kind that came easily, but the real kind, messy and complicated and worth fighting for. Jay spun her gently, and she laughed, the sound carrying out into the night. Somewhere across the city, in a different life, Marcus was probably still trying to figure out what went wrong. But Kira didn't think about him anymore. She thought about tomorrow, and the day after that, and all the days she'd spend with the man who'd started as a stranger and become her everything. I love you, she said suddenly, the words spilling out before she could stop them. Jay's arms tightened around her, his voice rough with emotion. I love you too, more than I thought I could love anything. They kissed again, soft and sweet and full of promise. And in that moment, beneath the soul sky, surrounded by the life they were building together, Kira understood something profound. Sometimes the best things in life come from the most reckless decisions. Sometimes you have to risk everything to find what you've been searching for all along. And sometimes, just sometimes, a single kiss can change your entire world. 3 years later, the small restaurant in Itaewon hummed with life. Kira stood behind the counter, adjusting the chalkboard menu she'd written in both English and Korean. Her restaurant. Her dream. A fusion of Nigerian and Korean cuisine that had taken Seoul by storm. The door chimed, and Jay walked in, still in his suit from whatever meeting he'd just left. But the moment he saw her, his entire face softened. How was your day? He asked, leaning across the counter to kiss her. It was chaotic, beautiful, and perfect. She gestured to the full dining room. We're booked solid for the next month. Pride shone in his eyes. I'm not surprised. You're incredible. We're incredible, she corrected, touching the wedding band on her finger. They'd gotten married 6 months ago, a small ceremony in Lagos with her family, then another in Seoul with his people. 2 worlds finally merged. Jay had stepped back from the most dangerous parts of his business, transitioning into legitimate enterprises. It hadn't been easy, and there were still risks, still enemies who remembered the old days. But they'd built something real together. Something worth protecting. Mama called, Kira said, wiping her hands on her apron. She wants to know when we're giving her grandchildren. Jay raised an eyebrow. And, what did you tell her? That we're working on it. Kira grinned, then her expression turned serious. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that. Something in her tone made Jay's breath catch. Kira? She reached beneath the counter and pulled out a small box, sliding it across to him. I know we said we'd wait, but sometimes life has other plans. Jay opened the box with trembling hands. Inside was a tiny pair of baby shoes and a positive pregnancy test. His eyes shot up to hers, wide and disbelieving. Are you? 8 weeks, Kira whispered, tears already streaming down her face. I found out yesterday. I wanted to surprise you. Jay came around the counter so fast he nearly knocked over a chair. He pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her neck. His shoulders shook, and Kira realized he was crying. Jay, I never thought I'd have this, he said, his voice breaking. A family. A real family. After everything I've done, everything I've been, I didn't think I deserved it. Kira pulled back to look at him, cupping his face in her hands. You deserve all of it. Every bit of happiness. Every moment of peace. You've worked for it, fought for it, changed for it. We're having a baby, he said, wonder in his voice. We're having a baby, she confirmed, laughing through her tears. Jay dropped to his knees, pressing his forehead against her still flat stomach. I promise, he whispered. I promise I'll protect you. Both of you. I'll be better than my father was. I'll be there. Always. Kira ran her fingers through his hair, her heart so full she thought it might burst. I know you will. You already are. Around them, the restaurant continued its evening rhythm. Customers laughed and ate, unaware of the miracle happening behind the counter, unaware that the dangerous man on his knees was promising his unborn child a better life than he'd ever known. That night, they lay in bed, Jay's hand resting protectively on Kira's stomach. "What if I mess it up?" he asked quietly. "What if I don't know how to be a father?" "Then we'll figure it out together," Kira said, the same words that had become their mantra. "Just like we figured out everything else." "Together," he repeated, pressing a kiss to her shoulder. "You know what's funny?" Kira said after a moment. "If someone had told me that night at Crystal Lounge that asking a stranger for a kiss would lead to all of this, a husband, a restaurant, a baby, I would have thought they were insane." "Would you have still done it?" Jay asked. "Knowing everything that would happen? The danger, the pain, all of it." Kira turned to face him, her hand covering his where it rested on her stomach. "In a heartbeat. Every single time. Because all of that led me to you. Led us to this." Jay kissed her softly, reverently. "I spent so many years thinking love was weakness. That caring about someone made you vulnerable. And I was right. It does make you vulnerable. But it also makes you stronger, braver, more alive. Look at you, getting all philosophical," Kira teased gently. "I had a good teacher," he said, smiling. "A stubborn, beautiful, incredible woman who refused to let me hide behind my walls." "That woman sounds amazing."
She is.
"Even when she's hormonal and crying over food commercials." Kira swatted his chest. "That was one time. And it was a very emotional commercial about kimchi." They laughed together, the sound filling the darkness. And as Kira drifted off to sleep, safe in her husband's arms with their future growing inside her, she thought about how far they'd come. From a desperate kiss in a nightclub to this, a life built on love, trust, and the courage to keep choosing each other, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. 7 months later, Jay paced the hospital waiting room like a caged tiger. Do-hyun sat calmly in the corner, watching his boss fall apart with barely concealed amusement. "She's been in there for 12 hours, Jay said for the 100th time. 12 hours. What if something's wrong? What if?" "She's fine," Do-hyun assured him. "Labor takes time." "How do you know?" "Because I have 3 kids, remember?" Before Jay could respond, a nurse appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Kong? You can come in now." Jay practically ran. The nurse led him down the hallway to a private room, and when she opened the door, time stopped. Kira sat propped up in bed, exhausted and radiant, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in pink blankets. She looked up when he entered, and her smile could have lit up the entire city. "Come meet your daughter," she said softly. Jay crossed the room on shaking legs. He looked down at the baby in Kira's arms, his daughter, and felt his entire world shift on its axis. She was perfect, tiny and beautiful, with a shock of black hair and skin the perfect blend of both her parents. As if sensing his presence, she opened her eyes, dark and alert, and Jay felt something break open in his chest. "Do you want to hold her?" Kira asked. Jay nodded, not trusting his voice. Kira carefully transferred the baby into his arms, and the moment she settled against his chest, Jay started crying. "Hey there," he whispered to his daughter. "I'm your appa. I know I probably look scary right now, but I promise I'm going to try my best. I'm going to protect you and love you and make sure you never doubt how wanted you are." The baby made a small sound, her tiny hand curling around his finger. And just like that, Jay was completely, utterly lost. "She's perfect," he said to Kira. "She's absolutely perfect." "She is," Kira agreed, tears streaming down her own face. "What should we name her?" They'd discussed names for months, but never settled on one. Now, looking at his daughter, Jay knew exactly what her name should be. "Minji," he said quietly, "after my sister. And hope for her middle name. Minji Hope Kong." Kira's breath caught. "Jay, my sister would have loved her," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Would have loved you. And this way, she's still with us. Still part of our family." Minji Hope Kong, Kira repeated, smiling through her tears. It's perfect. Jay sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to jostle either of them. His wife and daughter.
His family.
Everything he'd ever wanted and never thought he could have. Thank you, he said to Kira. For what? For that kiss in the club. For being brave enough to approach a stranger. For giving me a reason to be better. For this. He looked down at Minji, then back at Kira. For everything. Kira reached up and touched his face. Thank you for catching me when I fell. And for never letting go. They sat together in the quiet hospital room, their daughter sleeping peacefully between them, and Jay thought about the journey that had brought them here. I love you, he whispered, kissing Kira's forehead then Minji's. We love you too, Kira replied. Always. And in that moment, surrounded by the family he'd built from the ashes of his past, Jay finally understood what it meant to be home. 5 years later, little Minji ran through the garden of their house in Hanamdong, her laughter echoing off the walls. At 5 years old, she was a perfect blend of both her parents, her mother's fierce spirit and her father's quiet intensity. Appa, Appa, look, she called out in Korean, holding up a flower she'd picked. Jay looked up from the book he was reading, a smile automatically crossing his face. It's beautiful, princess. Like Mama, Minji declared, running toward the house where Kira was cooking dinner. Do-hyun, who'd stopped by for a visit, shook his head in amazement. I never thought I'd see the day. The great Jae-hyun, domesticated. Careful, Jay warned, but there was no heat in it. I can still make you disappear.
Please.
You're too busy attending tea parties and helping with homework. Do-hyun grinned. Besides, you're happy. Really happy. It's good to see. Jay watched his daughter disappear into the house, heard her excited chatter as she showed Kira the flower. I am happy. Terrifyingly so. Still waiting for the other shoe to drop? Every day, Jay admitted. But Kira keeps reminding me that sometimes good things just happen. That I'm allowed to have this. She's right, you know. You've earned it. Inside, Kira called out that dinner was ready. Jay stood, brushing off his pants. Stay for dinner? Can't. Family's waiting. But Jay. Do-hyun's expression turned serious. I'm glad you didn't let her go. That day at your penthouse, when I told you to send her away. You were trying to protect me, Jay said. I know. I was wrong. She didn't make you weaker. She made you stronger. After Do-hyun left, Jay joined his family for dinner. Minji chattered about her day at kindergarten while Kira served food, occasionally catching Jay's eye and smiling. These moments, so simple and ordinary, were everything. Later, after Minji was tucked into bed, Jay found Kira on their bedroom balcony, looking out over Seoul's glittering skyline. Remember when we stood on a balcony like this at that charity gala? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. When you gave me the promise ring? Kira leaned back against him. How could I forget? I cried all over your expensive suit. Best investment I ever made, he murmured, pressing a kiss to her neck. That suit brought me you. Actually, my desperation and your dangerous reputation brought me you. Details. He turned her to face him. Do you have any regrets? About how we started? About choosing this life? Kira looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the city lights. Not a single one. Do you? Only that I didn't kiss you longer that first time. She laughed, the sound he'd fallen in love with that very first night. Well, you've certainly made up for it since. Have I? He kissed her softly. I want to make sure. Jae-hyun, she said, warmth in her voice. After 5 years of marriage and a child, I think you've proven your point. But I'm a perfectionist. I should probably practice more. Is that so? Definitely. It's a matter of professional pride. Kira wrapped her arms around his neck, smiling. Then by all means, Mr. Kong. Practice away. And he did, kissing her like it was the first time all over again, like she was still that brave woman in the burgundy dress who'd asked a stranger for a favor and changed his entire world. Because some love stories start with a bang. But the best ones? The real ones? They're built in moments like these: quiet nights on balconies, laughter over dinner tables, promises kept and renewed every single day. From a single desperate kiss to a lifetime of love. That was their story.
And it was far from over.
Kira and Jay's story started with one bold, reckless request and transformed into a love that rewrote both their lives. From that first kiss at Crystal Lounge to building a family that neither of them thought they deserved, they proved that sometimes the person you least expect becomes exactly who you need. What's your story? Have you ever taken a leap of faith that changed everything? Or is there a risk you're still too afraid to take? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes just sharing your story is the first step toward writing your own happy ending. And if this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe because more stories of love, redemption, and second chances are coming your way. How will you rate this story on a scale of 1 to 10? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.